You ready?
Whatever.
Hey, welcome to STS. Stop clapping, Tom. Okay, let's try this again. Rewind. Delete. Hey, welcome to STS. I'm Tom. This is Renee. STS is a parkour news show where we cover all things parkour. Now, normally we talk about the current events in parkour, of which there is some. So we're having an episode. So today's episode, we're discussing the art of motion, Redbull art of motion. And for those of you who do not know, Redbull art of motion has been happening for probably over a decade now. And it's historically been a live event that's broadcast on Redbull's streaming platform. This time they changed things up quite a bit. So there was definitely a lot that was different this year. So, do you want to go into the details? You want me to cover them? What do we want to do?
Yeah, I mean, that is a tall order.
That's a tall order. Yeah, there's quite a bit different. So,
I actually remember when you were saying Red Bull going on for 10 years, I remember one of actually my favorite recordings of STS is when we did an art of motion breakdown and we had a screen.
Oh, yeah.
Because they had this excellent platform on their website to scrub through the video of the live stream player. Great. I don't know, I guess, like, does that just make us old that we appreciated that format to be able to sit down at home and, watch something on a screen and rewind and plug and play through? Does everything really just belong on TikTok and gets washed over the next day? Is that the future?
It is of the future in a way. But I think, so he said TikTok, he's not joking. It was broadcast on TikTok and it was not on their streaming platform. I don't think it makes us old. I think it just, they were trying something different and trying to reach a wider audience. And I think it's easier to like reach new audience because so many people are on TikTok around the world. And in particular, parkour's audience skews younger, so does TikTok. So there's a lot of crossover between.
Or does Red Bull's audience skew younger?
Probably, yeah. We're getting old, but we're still in it. I think a lot of the parkour community probably would have preferred it to be on the Red Bull streaming platform. So it's like, I missed the event. How do I go watch it? I go to Red Bull's website and watch it just like I would have any other year. And I think there's a bit of blowback from not having that experience, right? So a lot of people are a little bit upset with, I missed TikTok's broadcast, so how do I find it? Well, I've got to go to some random guy's YouTube
which we did.
which we did right before this episode, to see what's going on. And actually, that's one of the things that I'm a bit annoyed about is, like, even just to watch the other 2 days events, which we haven't actually talked about yet, that's not even available on Red Bull, or at least if it's not from anywhere I could find with my search skills, which isn't terrible. Come on.
All right, so let's rewind.
I grew up with the internet.
You actually have great search skills. I have terrible search skills, but let's rewind a bit just for the uninformed. As I said, it is a tall order to break down exactly what happened with this event, and we'll get into the whys and hows a little bit later. But essentially, 3-day event, 2 days where athletes with videographers went out and had content-making challenges. That's fair to say.
Sure.
And the 3rd day was actually more of the formal art of motion type event where it's a live event. There appeared to be a crowd and they're doing lines and being judged, and there's a live broadcast of it, which unfortunately was only aired on TikTok, but it did happen.
Yeah. So even the live event was different, quite a bit different from previous years as well. So we'll get into that a little bit later, but maybe we'll start talking about the video parts. So the first day was what they called an exploration challenge, which is essentially all the athletes had to submit 3 clips to then be judged, and their best one was kind of selected and then compared with the other athletes. And then based on their performance in that clip challenge, the exploration challenge. They were ranked, and if you were in the top 5, you got points that carried over to the next day and then the third day as well after that.
Yeah, and the criteria is a little bit unclear because so that was the exploration challenge. Day 2 is the spot challenge.
Yep.
So the exploration challenge sounds to me, or I guess to both of us, that it should be go out and explore the island and find like the one challenge you're gonna do for the day, or a couple, like it's a find the finds, find the good find.
Yeah.
And perform it. And then day 2 was the spot challenge, which I think meant more like use the
course that's built,
yeah,
and partially built and partially in existence, and then try to create a 60-second edit, right? So there's a lot of the filmmakers' contribution is considered here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but actually, I want to talk a little bit about the exploration challenge, because I feel like some athletes really got that and really took exploration to heart,
mm-hmm.
and others felt like, or maybe I don't know what they felt like because
mm-hmm.
I'm not in their brains,
yeah.
But they seemed to do things that aren't really explorative.
Yeah, and I think just before even we get into what athletes did well and didn't do well at any point, is it seems that athletes didn't always know what was going on. You at home and us didn't know what's going on. Seems to be a lot of just not communicated things, but I'll let you continue with the point you were going to make about certain athletes.
I mean, this is obviously, you're criticizing Red Bull in a sense right now, which I agree with, and there's definitely a lot of criticism about I have the event. I would say overall, I think it's really cool. There's a lot of things that I liked about it, so I don't want this to come off as like it's purely just like hate on Red Bull, because because a lot of people are jumping on that train lately, and I feel annoyed that we're always in parkour, we eat our own, and like it's always like hating on whatever comes out. So and I think we also have a reputation of that. So I want to be clear here that I want to be critical of Red Bull, but I'm not hating on this.
There's things I liked. We'll get into.
Yeah. One day we'll start with what we liked.
There's things I like.
Okay, so I guess, Travis Verkey won the men's division, right? Overall, right? So overall 3 days. I think in the first day, the exploration challenge, he came in second to Ed Scott. But I think both of those athletes, Ed and Travis, really understood the concept of exploration challenge. They went out, they found a spot where only they could interact with the thing that they interacted with.
So this is in defense of them being rewarded.
Yes.
Because there is a lot of the criticism is like, Ellis is the best and he should have won.
Yeah.
He did the hardest moves, and then therefore he should have won. And that's up to a little bit of interpretation there for sure. But we have the winning clip, because it's a clip. Yep. The winning clip from Travis Verkey is that precision.
Winning.
Sorry, winning for that day. Sorry, Ed won for that day.
Yeah.
Getting all confused. Ed's winning clip was side flip. Side flip over a gap to a precise wall, called side flip precision plyo into a palm flip.
Palm layout, which was pretty sick, and really nice, really sick combo. Great obstacle interaction, which is exactly that's something that we've always looked at in SPL competitions when we're judging style events, is the obstacle interaction. And I think that a lot of other athletes are doing moves in areas that are just like they could do that anywhere, right? So examples of people, Archie, DK, even like Lilu, or even more like even Sydney, like all of those athletes. I mean, I can go on. There's actually more, where it was kind of just like a generic flat ground spot. There's like a ledge and a wall, or maybe a couple walls, and they're just doing lines that they are coming up with on flat ground, doing like a tumbling thing, a wall trick, and a ledge flip. And it's that, to me, is not exploration, right? That's just like, oh, like I need to do a sick line that involves some of the best skills that I have. So I have all of these skills. I need to fit them in somewhere. Whereas Ed was like, I see that fat side pre over there. I could do a side pre somewhere else, but this is a unique spot to do this in.
So I think this is something that you and I agree on.
Yeah.
In terms of like how this round was judged and what it says about, what it says about parkour competition, freestyle competition, and it's that obstacle interaction. But just to kind of play a bit of, I guess, not really devil's advocate here, but to kind of help people kind of understand this sort of argument. So again, we look at the winning clips. So one of the things, I think one of the similarities is Ed found this gap. Found these two walls, and it's like, looks to be a massive gap, probably a massive side flip to hit it, and then it also has another perfect height like wall next to it that he can punch into. And mind you too, because there were one or two other, I can't remember because the videos I'm getting confused which rounds they're in, but we saw like other side flip gaps and like side to side. But the fact that he had to control the impact of the first side flip, which was massive, and do something that was a rotation on a different axis, is very difficult compared to like if he just did side to side. And he could only do it in that spot. Like he found something that was unique to that spot. Travis found something even more unique, but it didn't have a flip.
Well, he kind of just finished with a double cork,
but yeah, celebration flip.
So he did this really sweet running pre, basically over a gap, and it's like to a windowsill, but not straight on. It's like to the side of the windowsill, so it's like even skinnier and like weirder to land on. So yeah, and then he just dropped down, rolled, and then did double cork basically as a celebration, which super cool, like exploration, like use of spot. That's like what, in my mind, that this first day of competition was all about.
So the other side of it is you have, we'll just use Ellis as an example, did a line that had, Kong gainer and various other tricks that I can't remember. It's all a blur now because I've seen so many flips at this point for different people's rounds. But, maybe had some moves in there, and you could look at what Ed did or what Travis did and then what Ellis did and say like, oh, like those are harder moves that Ellis did. Why didn't he get it? And it's, again, because he didn't need to find something unique on the island itself. And I think that also speaks to like his experience as a practitioner, because he's a bit more of a gym athlete. And so it's like, okay, where can I do, because what does he need to do a Kong gainer? A hip height, like basically any like railing height wall with maybe a little bit of a drop, but not even, because he can tuck around without a drop.
I'm gonna slightly disagree here, only because I still agree that he was on more of.
I'm trying to help our argument. Why are
he
you
was more on he was more on the spectrum of like not really using the spot, but he had more spot interaction or like obstacle interaction than some of the other athletes did.
Sure. Yeah. There was that like square spot.
Yeah. It was literally just flat square area with a wall and a ledge. Like the best example I have is Archie, who's like a very skilled athlete, but he did gainer double full to start off his line, and then some like butt roll, like wall step fault things, which are quite easy. He did another like scoop full and some other moves that are skilled. But again, it's just like so like generic of a spot to use. So I think Ellis did a little bit better if he chose a different spot that wasn't as generic, but he's still closer to that side of the spectrum. Whereas I would say Ed and Verky are much more, and even Dom actually are much more on the side of like, you can only do this here, or like it's harder to find the spot. You have to find the gem, the diamond in the rough, where where your skill meets the environment, not where just like, oh, I can do this anywhere.
Yeah. So I think just to kind of like put the hammer the nail on the head, whatever that what is that
What's
phrase?
the expression?
Put the nail on the head. I don't know.
Put the,
I had
put
it.
the nail
I
in
had
the coffin.
Is
Nail
it?
in the coffin?
Sure. Anyway,
To finish
to sum up this whole point we're trying to make here, it's if you were in this competition and you were setting out to do what you should have been tasked with when it comes to exploration, and particularly if we're really favoring obstacle interaction. In terms of exploration, parkour, whether it's freestyle-based parkour or more traditional, is you should be looking for a feature that you couldn't have found anywhere else, and then creating off of that feature. And so using like the most kind of like flat, ordinary part of the whole spot, and then doing like a bunch of like maybe unique things with your body, but that didn't really involve anything cool about the spot, doesn't really hit for this, I think, and I think that's what they were going for.
Yeah.
And I think both of us agree that like that is a cool concept that came out of this, and something that you can only get to from doing a challenge like this, where it's a video challenge. It's on like a remote island, or
it's a unique place in general.
Yeah.
It's one of the Greek islands. But yeah, I mean, I've long been an advocate for like obstacle interaction or like spot interaction as the thing that defines parkour as a sport compared to other disciplines, right? Like there's certainly crossover to things like tricking or dare I say gymnastics, but what makes parkour different from tricking and gymnastics is the environment that it's done in. Gymnastics is the same standard environment that's done, that hard things are done always on the same structures or apparatus, and tricking is always done on flat, uninteractive landscapes. So what makes parkour so cool and unique, and what I think we should be aiming towards when we're especially doing things in a competitive scenario, is to judge people on how they use spots, not on how they just manipulate their body.
One more quick example I wanted to mention on this.
Yeah, go ahead.
And it's because we didn't, and I don't actually know where he placed, but Bob Reese did a side. So, and then here's another example: is he did a side flip gap, but instead of just like finding, he found the least ideal thing to side flip to, the thing that he's the round.
I'm definitely gonna slip on this.
Yeah. So that is the exploration challenge, is, go out, instead of trying to find the most maybe ideal spot to do the things that you already have premeditated that you want to do. It's going out and finding a unique structure or opportunity, and then being like, oh, this might work here, and then exploring and playing with that.
Great. Yeah. So
I think we spent too much time on that round. We're gonna have to
what?
pick up our
We're gonna
pace
pick up
here.
our pace.
Yeah.
The next round was the spot challenge, which was, I think, essentially they had a course that was partially built out and partially just existing structure that they had to make basically 60-second video, and it wasn't just like a single clip, although that's what Ed did, and maybe we'll just kind of touch on that in a second. But it was to be edited and have a concept, and there was a concept that was part of the scoring, apparently. So the filmmaker actually played a role in the athlete's performance through this event. And yeah, so like overall that one went to Verky. Verky came in first in that round, and I think well deserved. I thought the video was excellently produced. He did some really, like, he kind of, thinking back to like spot interaction, he did an excellent job of doing like utilizing the environment in a way that's like only can be done there, which I think again is what sets parkour apart from other disciplines. But I mean, there were certainly other great videos that came out of this round, and and very entertaining ones, including Dom's, which was hilarious because he only did one thing in it, but the whole thing was a build-up around that one thing. And Bob Reese's I thought was really entertaining because he just did a bunch of chair stuff and like weird like broomstick flyaways and things like that, grinding shoes. I don't think that should have won, but it was entertaining and a good watch. And Ed's was a one shot.
The oneer.
So it was like basically one clip, and he kind of did this whole line that went across all the course. It was probably a really unique challenge, but he also obviously had to like reduce the difficulty in order to accomplish some of or the length of it. So props to him for doing it, but I think it was probably a poor choice in terms of actually executing on the competition side of it.
Yeah. I wanted to bring up too that the concept for this round is it's a very old concept, not in parkour, but in film. It's a 24-hour film festival.
Yeah.
So what happens at 24 hours, because I've done these before, like I did one in film school, yay. I did a 24-hour film festival where it was like horror theme. And they gave you like certain props and things that you only, or themes that you only got on the day of the, when you're supposed to start shooting, to make it so that you couldn't have used like pre-filmed things that all had to tie in. So kind of similar sort of challenge to that. It's like 24-hour film festival, which is kind of like the first round, but that one was more on the athlete, whereas the second round, and something that we also need to include here as a detail, is that part of the scoring actually went to the production of the film.
Right.
So like 15% of the scoring, I think, is what Giles mentioned on the Modus podcast, is that 15% of the score went to just the quality of the film.
Yeah.
My voice cracked when I said Giles. Excuse me.
Giles. Actually, Giles and Sam had a great discussion because they were like insiders. They were filmmakers that were invited to be involved in this event. So they actually had some pretty good insight and some better understanding of what went on behind the scenes that a lot of people who weren't there would never know about if it wasn't for them actually dispersing that information. So go have a listen if you want to hear a little bit more about that.
Final round?
Final round.
Well, actually, before we go to final round, because we've kind of skipped over it.
Yeah.
Winners they don't do like it's not a winner for if you're a woman competing. It's just best female.
They still rank them.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, it's still like even though they didn't have a podium at the end, I still view it as a podium if they break down points in the same way. So, but yeah, the winner of the female division for the second day was Sydney. Well, the first day I think was Lilu.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought Lilu did win on the first day. She had more spot interaction, which I thought was cooler. Sydney might have done maybe a more complex line.
Similar sort of take and movements. Lilu, I think, probably just took it because she ended up doing some sort of swing cast off of like an escape ladder structure. So again, just talking about what sort of makes sense for us, and I think they were looking for with the Explore Challenge was like, finding a spot where you can do something off of a structure like that instead of just like, some curb walls, basically.
Yeah. And Sydney and Jesse produced this video for the spot challenge day 2, and I thought it went hard. And it was super cool. So I thought that was definitely one of the better moments of the event, because it was it like kind of like very in the very beginning, like it's like, what do you want to do for this video? And she's like, I want to go hard as beep. And then it's just like it cuts into like really heavy like soundtrack, and it's got like shaky camera, and I don't know, I thought it was good. But I think she definitely deserved to win over the other women in that round in particular, because that was by far the best female submission. You
Yeah,
agree?
there were some other ideas. I think like Noah had a similar video that didn't hit quite as hard. Some of the other, I think Lilu is like another close competitor to Sydney, and I think just some of the other women that were competing didn't have the same level. But if say we just talked about those three, like Noah, Lilu, and Sydney, Lilu's video concept was, in my opinion, not much of a concept, which was like the clothing change thing. She did some definitely some good moves in there, but just didn't have quite the same level of going hard as Sydney did.
I definitely agree. The one thing that, and I talked to you about this before, is the very first thing that Lilu does is just like a massive height drop, which to me is so cool because like she had been training for I don't know how long up to do manpower gap, woman power, and she just like starts out this video with this just height drop, just straight down, no roll. And it's sizable too. And I don't think it really shows that well on video because like I had to watch, it wasn't until my third time watching it that I was like, oh dang, that's a massive height drop. So anyway, I thought that was super cool, especially with the knowledge of like the whole woman power thing. It's like, she's like, now she's trained herself up to have this new unique ability that she can take a height drop, and so she's like, well, I'm gonna use it.
Yeah, it was a bit of I think the first time we watched it, I didn't notice it. You pointed it out, and I was like, oh yeah, that is huge. Yeah, a bit of like a oversight on the shot selection there, because I feel like they had the close-up of her coming out of the window, and they should have just cut to, I think this was Sam filming it. This is gonna be my first filmmaker criticism of this video, is you should have cut to a wide instead of following her down the drop, because if you cut to the wide, you get to see the drop the whole time, and it would have looked bigger.
Yeah, well, like you said, you said off camera, the slow-mo really helped, and I thought that was cool. But yeah, I think the wide, but I don't know. I'm not a filmmaker, so. Well, I'm an amateur. I make my own YouTube videos.
If you do parkour at this point and you're trying to put stuff out there, you're a filmmaker.
Okay, so live event. Should we talk about that?
Yeah, the final round.
So
no, let's skip it.
Before we even talk about this, I do want to say I think that this was actually two separate events, and I think that was a mistake to try to combine it into one.
Yeah, it's fair.
So like I think the two video challenges is one event, and I think definitely Travis won that, but I think the live event has a totally different feel and experience as a viewer, as a spectator, and also probably as the athletes. So, but I wasn't there. I'm not part of it. So, but just looking from the outside, and so I think a lot of the criticism of the outcome of like, oh, why did Travis win? His line wasn't as difficult as Ellis's. But also Ed won that live round. So anyway, it's all really confusing. So I think this this was kind of elucidated a little bit in the Modus podcast, where Giles is saying apparently this was originally not supposed to be an Art of Motion. This was supposed to be a different event. And then I guess somewhere along the line of Red Bull just decided, oh no, actually we're just going to use the Art of Motion name, and we're going to make this an Art of Motion event, even though like athletes are already confirmed to come for this. So what do you think of, how do I frame this as a question? What do you think of the outcome of the live event? So just to look at the standings, it was Ed was in first place, and oh wait, actually I don't know who was second or third. Was it Ellis?
Yeah, I mean, but I think the big, like, no one ever remembers second or third. Doesn't matter, like doesn't matter the competition.
But that's kind of true, yeah. But it kind of matters here because there's so much like confusion about placement.
Yeah, and I think the big question that we have it written down here is like, should Travis Verkey have won the whole thing? And when we go through round by round, it all makes sense. But also what you said about it being a mistake having like a live competition be part of these two like video challenges gets kind of wonky, and it makes it
So
and particularly when people aren't really able to follow what's going on.
So yeah, so one thing that's clear to me is the judging, I guess taking the event as a whole with the video parts as well. You only got points if you placed in the top 5, right? So, and it was tiered. It was like if you were first place on the day, let's say day 1, the exploration challenge, you got 7 points, and then it went like 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 or something like that. And so if you place, so Travis placed second place on day 1 and first place on day 2. So he only had to get like 5th place or something like that in the live challenge, and he would have, and to win, right? Because he was so stacked with points from the first 2 rounds. But on the other hand, Ed won the first day, but didn't crack the top 5 on day 2. So he only was going into the 3rd round just like with 7 points or whatever. So I don't know, like what I'm saying here is that there should have been more points allocated to all athletes. Should have been points allocated to all athletes, because then there would be more of a chance for somebody who placed a little bit lower on an earlier day to come back on a later day. And I think so. And Ed came in first place day 1 and first place on day 3 and still didn't win. And I don't understand how like you can justify that.
Yeah, and I think actually an interesting exercise that actually could come out of this is if you're a nerd out there that wants to watch through all this stuff, I would create a scoring system. So again, we found some random guy's YouTube channel. You can't find any of. I'm assuming Redbull is going to put this somewhere in one place at some point, because they did at one point. I did go on their website. I think it was like the day after the comp, and they did have some videos up, but it couldn't. They were from different rounds, and so it was even more confusing. But
I heard that they are producing a documentary type thing.
All right, we'll come back to that. But if I think something like an exercise that could come into this is like go find all the videos and give points. So don't change the order, but give points to the beneath the top 5. So whoever got like 6, 7, 8, because these people did not get points in the scoring system they have, and then see who wins.
But see, I don't think
changes the like. I think Verky still gets first, but it might change.
But I don't think that they have rankings for people beyond the top 5. That's the problem.
I thought I saw rankings on that random YouTube. We should have really noted what YouTube channel that was. 'Cause people, I don't know. Go on YouTube and search Redbull Art of Motion 2022.
I don't. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, like. But I agree. Like if we had all the data, we should be able to like come up with a winner on our own and see if it still is Travis. And it might still be, but either way, it still seems wrong in so many ways. Like, okay, so I want to pull it back to the live competition, because I have some issues with the live competition, but I also have some praise for it. That was the word I was looking for.
Okay.
So the thing I liked about it, they got 3 attempts to hit their line, or potentially different lines. And I liked that they gave a restriction on, they wanted to make it a combo, right? And so they actually said, all right, 10-second time limit. The problem is some people went over 10 seconds, and apparently the judges were instructed to not count anything beyond 10 seconds, which is wrong. Because some great things that happen in these combos weren't counted simply because it was like 12-second mark, right? So I think as a competition organizer, you can give the restriction of, okay, I want 10-second lines, but give the leeway to like let people finish the line if it's 12 seconds or 15 seconds. I understand you don't want them taking 30 seconds and kind of dilly-dallying and like doing this like the silly like crowd hype things in between moves. You want them to make a combo, but if they're able to make a combo and it goes just a little bit beyond 10 seconds, you should still count the moves. I think that's wrong that they didn't count it.
Yeah, and it kind of it's very it's what we've tried to do, and what I think if you gave me like if you asked previous art of motions, if you said like give me like one thing that would make this competition better, and I would say shorter lines, because it's not, up until more recent years, it's not what parkour looks like when you go out and do it, even to get Instagram clips. What's starting to happen, and it's a trend I hate, is that competition lines are have found their way into people's like daily practice. And so people are going out, and instead of doing there's like a period in where it kind of like increased over time, but like let's say like when I started parkour, so we're going back like almost 20 years, and it's like okay, one move at a time, do one move at a spot, and then like freestyle parkour or free running, or what do you want to call it, was like do a flip off a ledge, and then sometimes you would do a flip off a ledge and then run to another ledge, do a flip off a ledge, run to another one. There was no connection or thoughtful use of space. It was just a trick here, a trick there. And then lines started to happen, but they were shorter. And then because Art of Motion has always promoted, an air whip and other events like it have always promoted a minute time limit, athletes always kind of think that they're incentivized, like, okay, I need to do more things to fill the minute time limit. But that wasn't always reflected by the winner too. I think of athletes like Bart van der Linden. When he won Art of Motion, he just like blazed through the course and he won. So finally, it seems like someone at Art of Motion, because I've just been so sick of it year after year, seeing them stick to the same minute time limit with this giant course that is not reflective of how any of these athletes actually practice. And it's starting to change the culture in a way that I think is wrong, by making athletes want to practice on a regular basis these long freestyle lines that get kind of wacky and just dumb looking sometimes. And now they've gone into like, okay, shorter. So they're doing what we have done with NAPC since like the third time we did it. Originally with NAPC we did battle format with teams, and then we went away from battles and we went to solo format where it's just one athlete running, and they were running on courses. And we've done all kinds of different little tweaks, but we have been consistent in that we have always said we have wanted shorter lines. We've used time as a guideline, so we've said things like, hey, try to make this a 15-second Instagram clip when Instagram was only 15 seconds, and try to make this connection and obstacle interaction. So they've taken essentially all the ideas that we've done and given it a 10-second, even shorter time limit. But the problem is we never had a time limit, we just had a time guideline. And so you now have all these robberies on their live competition. As you said, it's just flat out, it's just wrong. I don't think there's an argument to be made that was like the right call when you see what happened, because you have these, sometimes the best move is at the end of the line. Yeah. And so if you get cut off, it's like, what the heck?
So I actually want to talk about just briefly Tempest Kings of Concrete, because I think they did it right.
Yeah.
They said 10 limit, time limit, but there was nobody saying like cutting them off. There was no buzzer. There was nobody telling the judges, oh, that doesn't count because it was after 10 seconds. Some lines went longer than 10 seconds, but all the athletes understood the rule. Okay, I've got to keep it short and sweet. But they don't have an internal time clock, so they might go 12 seconds or 15 seconds. 15 seconds is actually like, if we think about like your body's energy systems, 10 to 15 seconds is like when you can do explosive movement, and after that you're tapping into other energy systems, and then you're just not going to be performing the highest level things unless you really specifically train for it, which nobody does, except for Joey Adrian, but
that one year.
That was 1 year. But yeah, I want to, I thought Kings of Concrete did it right. Art of Motion seemed like, okay, it looks like they're taking a page out of what Kings of the Concrete established as like a 10-second time limit, but then they took it too far. They went like to the point where now everybody's just gonna be mad because they didn't count somebody's like cast gainer, or I don't know how long Ellis's run went, but if he went beyond 10 seconds, and they then definitely didn't count his full fall at the end, which is the hardest thing that maybe has ever been done in competition. So, which brings me back to the live competition and the results. So Ed won the live competition. He definitely had a more connected run than most people. Actually, I think Verky probably had the most connected run, but it wasn't as...
It was mostly parkour.
Yeah, it was... He did Kong Gainer, like a little vault.
I feel like I'm
Kong
itching.
Brie.
I kind of alluded to it, but I'm itching to get... We're going to save it for another video another time or something, but I'm just always itching to get into the concept of connection and what it's viewed as, because it's like... It's become the words flow and connection in parkour, particularly as they relate to freestyle judging, have just like we could interview people, particularly from different places, but even people from the same like community, be like, what does that mean to you? What do you think they're looking for? Like, who do you think shows like good? Name some athletes or whatever. And you're gonna get like just all over the map of what it is.
Yeah. I just want to kind of talk about first of all, Ellis is incredible. I think that's undeniable. I think a lot of people think he should have won, which I think there's a very strong argument that he should have won. He definitely had way higher difficulty than Ed's run, despite Ed's being more connected. I also want to just shine a spotlight on Shea Rudolph, because I loved his line. I thought it was really sick. It was like had a slight little stumble in the middle of it, but other than that, it was still pretty high level, pretty difficult, and well connected. Stefan Dollinger, his live run wasn't. I mean, it was great. Apparently his cast gainer at the end didn't count because he went beyond 10 seconds. But actually, the first 2 days of competition, I loved his submissions. I thought his exploration challenge was exactly that. He did a great job with it, and then his actual video was pretty on point too. So those are two athletes that I felt like didn't really get as much attention as they deserved throughout the competition. So Shea and Stefan.
All right, I do want to come back to that because that's something that we should probably end on.
Okay.
So the major criticism of this event, and so now that we've kind of gone through round by round what happened, talked a little bit about who won. We skipped again, but Sydney Olsen, best female. We already kind of like alluded to that with the other rounds, but no female podium there, and we'll talk about that in a moment as well. But first of all, is just the promotion of this event is, I think, the biggest criticism to make. And really, it's like if you look at every complaint, everything you're going for, and it comes down to other than maybe some of the scoring things that we've already talked about, but there was just almost no promotion, almost none, and it's on the organizers and on Redbull 100% to do that. Giles and Sam put out a podcast the Modus podcast, where they're kind of coming in from a defensive point about the event and talking about all the positive things, and then saying like, oh yeah, people just needed to have like more hand holding for this event. It's like, no, there needed to be actual promotion of what was going on. I actually knew a little bit because I spoke to someone before the event took place, and they said like, oh yeah, they're changing the format, there's going to be a video challenge and stuff. So I had a little bit of anticipation of what was going to happen, but Red Bull just decided to like completely like shit the bed and just not do any sort of promotion. And I don't actually think it's a problem for them, is the funny thing. I don't actually think it's something that they're going to necessarily improve on, because when it comes down to it, what did they get? They got a bunch of excellent content material which is all they really want out of Art of Motion, out of doing events, is like exposure and material that they can reuse year after year. So I think people have this idea that Art of Motion is for the parkour scene or for the parkour, dare I say, community, when really I don't think it is. I think Art of Motion is, well, it is a promotional opportunity for Redbull, and parkour is kind of the vessel of that. And you know, that's like a whole other, like, you know, thing about brands and sponsors and competition, but that's really what Red Bull events are, is they're promotional opportunities for Red Bull. And Red Bull can be praised, and I think should be praised, for the amount of funding that just gets given to athletes. You can think of just across so many sports, all the different athletes that are sponsored by Red Bull, but at the end of the day, it's promotion for them. They're not, I don't imagine that any brand, really, particularly an energy drink, is really has people at the top of it that are like, let's do some like charitable things for these parkour kids. I think it comes down to like, okay, who are the sick athletes that we can, you know, put Red Bull on to promote Red Bull. I don't know if you agree with that, but
I mean, I agree with it in the sense that that's how sponsorships work, and that's how like a large corporation that's like seeking to like promote their brand is going to operate. But I don't think that's surprising, and I don't think that they owe the community, if we want to use the word community, anything. They're gonna continue doing their events. If we are like raising a stink about it, there might be some like small changes that happen like internally based on like, you know, people who are a little bit closer to like how the event operates. But the executives at Red Bull probably don't give a fuck. Like they have one goal in mind, and this isn't even a criticism. This is just like how the world works, and I think, you know, and it's not even like a negative thing either. Like, I don't think that we need to think about it as like, oh, like Red Bull, they're just an energy drink mega corporation that only cares about.
What I could have said that I didn't is I could have used the term promotional tool.
Yeah,
as athletes, but I'm trying to be
no,
fair here.
But still, like I think it's really easy for people, especially in the parkour world, who have a certain perspective on the way the world works, to just blame the massive corporation that's using athletes for their own monetary gain. But at the end of the day, there is still people who are benefiting within the parkour world from Red Bull's involvement. And is that a bad thing? I don't think so.
No. And I think people need to realize too that, and this is, okay, so this is kind of like a take on it, and what I think parkour people should stop looking to Art of Motion for is stop looking at it as the best competition in parkour, or really as like a meaningful competition at all. We play this game.
It's meaningful. We're having a whole podcast about it.
Yeah,
right
well,
now.
because nothing happens in parkour. Nothing happens. That's why we're talking. That's why we're talking about it. It's a big event, and it is meaningful because people make it meaningful. What I'm suggesting is that they stop making it meaningful. They stop thinking of it as a meaningful competition, because we play this game about like, oh, remember your best Red Bull moment? Right, and it's like, you know, name like your like favorite Red Bull moment from previous years. This event, they improved on the competition, which, you know, makes me maybe rethink what I'm just was saying right now, because they improved on the competition and seem to be landing on some things that we think are going to be better for like future events. But particularly like the video thing, the video challenge, don't make that a competition, or call it like a 24-hour film festival. Like, call it what it is, you know.
See, actually, I do have some thoughts about the video competition. I think it would have been really cool if they actually live streamed like the viewing of it. So like
athletes viewing it, or
yeah, but not like just on the athletes, but like almost in the way that like an Oscars works, where we're like that the athlete, they're called up to go up, and the filmmaker, and they kind of talk about like their concept of the video, and then it airs on screen, and then like it's a more like interactive event. There's like a live chat of like, oh, did you see that? Like, I think that would have been way cooler, but instead I have to go hunt down these videos on some random dude's YouTube channel to like even see them. I think that it could have been a really cool, almost live event experience with just the videos. So anyway, those are kind of some of my thoughts about the way that competition could go, the direction that could go.
Yeah. But before we move on here, and I'm going to throw it back to you, but just along the lines of like meaningful competition, meaningful event, all those things, I think one of the things that has made Red Bull Art of Motion so big, feels so important over the years is the absolute fantasy experience that it creates for who attends. I've never been, but it looks like such a wild time. From like people talk about the after parties and stuff. Like I'm just thinking about like, you could be a parkour practitioner who just comes from maybe the middle of nowhere, and you're just really good at this niche thing that no one really appreciates, and you get flown out to this incredible location. You probably get put up real nice, you probably get food, you get to go to this party, and it's just like this sensational experience where you're living this almost like fake life for a couple days, and then back to reality, of course, after. And it's why in previous years too, when we would talk about like the top 6 spots and people not trying the final, because once you make it top 6, you get to come back and live it all over again, right? Yeah. So I think that's why Red Bull over the years has just become this like very meaningful thing, is because of that like dream opportunity just to be part of this crazy, and I'm going to use this word instead of competition, showcase of parkour. But I want to throw it back to you because there's a point that we haven't talked about yet, and it kind of is on the same lines of like what Red Bull means and what they're doing. Like, is it for the community? Who is it for? And it's one of the other big criticisms of the event, which is it felt like once again they're not doing enough for the female competitors. And I don't know, what is your take on that? Because that is the other, I think there's 2 big criticisms out of it. It's just how the event just felt like mashed together, no one understood what was going on, but also that there's not being enough done for females.
Yeah, so I guess we'll talk about, so the previous Art of Motion, there was, I believe, 6 female competitors. And in this one, they initially promoted it as only 2 female competitors. And I think that was actually not accurate. They weren't just, like, they were actually invited a 3rd who declined, and then they were trying to find a replacement. So that's Hazal. Hazal was originally invited to be a part of this Art of Motion and couldn't make it. And so then apparently Sydney was then invited in her place. So then there was 3, and then there was an additional online qualifier for this Art of Motion, which made it 4. And then after looking, or after like seeing like the event actually start to take place, it was clear that there was 5. So it went from, it looks like Red Bull only has 2 women, to Red Bull actually had 5 women, which was actually 1 fewer than their previous event. Is that the right direction to go? Probably not. Like we want to have more female participation if possible, not less. So I think that is a problem, and I think they were rightly criticized. I think there was also a bit more outrage and potentially less communication from Red Bull than there needed to be.
Well, it goes back to the whole like just under promoted, or just lack of promotion. Like there's changes being made behind the scenes. You have I'm gonna not gonna confirm this because it was from another person, but like Giles saying that Nico, who is in charge of a lot of the operations of the event, saying no one asked him anything, but we could say like, okay.
Yeah, nobody invited him to go on a podcast, or nobody like reached out to him to be like, hey, what's the deal with this? It was just start with the criticism and outrage in the public sphere, which I'm actually like, I'm okay with publicly criticizing, but I think the outrage that comes out of a lot of the parkour world is just really like demotivating. Like, it makes me not care like to be a part of our community sometimes, because it's just like, oh, what are we outraged about this time, guys? Now is going from 6 to 2 a mistake? That's for sure. That's a huge mistake. But was that all of the information? Actually, no, it wasn't. So
I think we got up to 6. I think there were 6 women.
Oh, I thought it was 5. Okay.
Yeah, I think when I can. So Ella, Miranda, Lilu, Sydney, Noah.
I think that's it.
Okay.
I think you hit all of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was 5.
Unless some lady's gonna be really upset out there at me for missing them.
That's okay.
They won't watch this. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? Because I just like express some like I'm fairly like, I feel like I'm fairly moderate in this realm. Like, I think Redbull dropped the ball on promotion, and that was part of it. They didn't communicate enough about what was going on with the female athletes. But I also think that like sometimes we overreact in the parkour world, and there's maybe we didn't have all the information, and instead of just like outrage in the public, we just like maybe asked the right people.
It almost seems like, and this is like parkour living online, or sometimes even just living on one platform, be it Instagram. Yeah, for me, it's like parkour lives on Instagram. I get all my parkour news on Instagram. I get it on people's stories and their comments and etc. And it's very quick, like, information sharing. And so when you're Red Bull and you put out a poster and it has 8 dudes and 2 women on it, and you're like, hey, Art of Motion's coming up, online qualifiers, 1 spot open for each one, or whatever it was, and no other explanation, the outrage there, if you're expecting to see more women compete because it seems like a step down because they had more in previous years, then it is valid, because it's an easy platform just to put, someone could pop on a Red Bull story and say like, hey, actually this is happening, or answer. It's not that hard to have a person do that. The problem is, I think, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying about Red Bull before, is it's not for the community, it's not for the scene. They're not doing it. I don't think they're making these putting money into these competitions to be like, let's give more opportunities for athletes as a whole in parkour. It's like, let's make a sick event. Here's how we know how to do it, and we're probably gonna miss a bunch of points. But also, because they're a big company, you probably have to go through a lot of people to make public statements. So it's very easy for us, when we're like SPL, which is 3 people, we can be like, if people have questions about things, we can pop on our Instagram stories and just like, answer questions when we feel like it. If there is like something people are uncertain about, there's a pretty easy avenue of connection there, because one of us could talk to the other 2 and say, hey, should we answer these questions, or should, is it okay if I say this? And it's very easy to give an answer. Whereas for Red Bull, it's probably got to go up so many tiers to be like, no, just don't say anything, don't respond. No, we don't have time for that.
Yeah, I just realized, so like as I was kind of going through the female competitors in Red Bull, so we had the 2 that were announced. We had Hazal's spot, which was replaced by Sydney. Then we had the 1 online qualifier. So that would only make 4 women, but then there was 5 that ended up being there. So I wonder if the outrage, to like play devil's advocate against myself, if the outrage actually like caused them to reach out to potentially invite a 5th.
Yeah, so this kind of goes into something that Giles was talking about and Sam were talking about on the Modus broadcast again, which was like the private conversations happening at Red Bull. The problem is, like, I've heard this story before, of like, oh yeah, this was all talked about. You know, we had a roundtable conversation or whatever at this thing, and things are going to change. I've heard this with so many different parkour events, so many different organizations. Were like, yeah, it's all bad, but you know, I talked to them like in private. You know, it seemed all good. We've already said that, or they mentioned that like Nico isn't really in charge of anything in terms of like the bigger decisions. He has influence, it seems, and that some people there have influence, and so they probably used their influence, like we can assume, to get another woman into the competition. But then there's also the talk of prize money, which I don't even know what it was, or it was advertised, and you know, so many other things around it. But I wouldn't be so confident that conversations had like I made a joke about this the other day after we had like a staff meeting where it's like, did anyone take notes at these conversations? Was this like a meeting? Did someone like, you know, take notes and be like, I'm going to bring this back to, you know, the big heads? Or because I'm betting more on that, like the people that have influence have already like went home after, you know, Redbull and it's done, you know, and these things won't be brought up until next year, and it might be too late to have any major change. But one can hope.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like I think it's a mistake to not announce a women's podium. I think that's a clear problem that Red Bull just.
Well, and they did it on the boat, right?
I thought they did.
I remember a photo.
I thought they did it on the boat. I thought they also did it in Matera, in Italy, but I also could be misremembering. But yeah, like they just did best female for this again, with just announcing Sydney as the winner, when, you know, I think a podium is the appropriate way to approach celebrating these women.
Yeah.
And yeah, we don't know what prize money was, so I'm assuming it was not equal, but that's based on hearsay, so I don't really know.
I think the other thing too is expect slow change from Red Bull. Again, talking about the just the change in format. How many Red Bulls Art of Motions have there been? A lot.
I don't know.
Over 10 probably. You know, at least 10. Right?
Definitely more.
And they stuck with the same format, and then like, okay, now we're going to change things, you know, after 10. So also they had they've always had, it's always just been best female, never a female division. Always like they're going to just have everyone run together, never ever a separate female division. And of course, we start to think about some of our own struggles with doing competitions and trying to make different divisions and trying to grow them and do things like that. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, but I do remember at least reflecting on. I remember the first. So this is going to predate NAPC. This was kind of the competition that led to NAPC.
Yeah.
And I am going to say it was Tyson Cheka came to me during a speed competition, and he said, I think we can have a women's division.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it's kind of weird saying these words because this was this is about 10 years ago. So not that long ago. About 10 years ago, and it kind of sounds weird. Like imagine like hearing that today, where it's like someone rolls up and like we're just doing, you know, or like say on Red Bull, like if someone just came up during the event and it's like, I think we have enough women here to have a women's division. But that's what it was, is that there was not very much women participating in events at all, but we had, I think it was 3 women at this speed competition who were of a competitive skill with one another, and someone came up and said, I think we should have a separate women's division for this one, and we did.
Yeah.
And then that sort of just kind of slowly became the thing after, and it's like something that we haven't really rushed, but maybe you want to speak a little bit about just kind of how we've developed it, and I don't know if it's too soon, but talk about some of the things that we're trying to do this year with SPL for women.
Yeah, so I guess kind of historically, like you said, that was the first time we actually ran a women's division, and it was kind of a combined skill and speed event. But the skill competition was just like measurement. It wasn't like actually, like it wasn't this the way skill competitions look today. But yeah, we over the years with our SPL events with NAPC, we slowly started adding women's divisions to the three disciplines. So we have skill, speed, and style. So we started with speed, and then with in style we had women participating in style because it was 2v2 like battle like tournament format. But those women were just along with the men, and then eventually we moved into a like a single person competition format where we actually did add a female division in style, and then it wasn't until actually 2017 that we added a female skill division. So it actually took a while for us to get up to the point where we were offering a female division for all three disciplines, but we finally did, because I mean it's difficult, and this is actually a slight defense of Red Bull in that it's hard. Like there's starting to get to be a lot more women in parkour, but it's still really hard to fill the numbers of like high level parkour, professional parkour athletes that are women. It's just like,
yeah,
we're running into this issue this year.
This is going to be a hard, like, I think it's just like a hard pill to swallow for people also, is they think it's easy to fill out, like, okay, so say if you have 12, and I think that was what it was for Art of Motion, 12 male, 12 people in you have 12 men competing, and then, you know, if you want 12 women,
I think it was
like,
actually 10 and 5 in the end.
Okay, but like let's say you want 10 women. There is going to be, so a couple of things you're going to run into, and I doubt they're going to have the same problem we have, but we have women saying no to coming to compete.
Well, they did. They had Hazal say no.
Okay,
right?
so you get a no, and so it's already like your top draw maybe, who was Hazal, said no. Okay, so you got Sydney Olsen, who competes with Lilu, who competes with Noah. We didn't have like Elise Bickley, who's like usually like a pretty, like, I'll say household name in women's style competition. Maybe that was a no. You know, I'm just like speculating here, but you start to go down the list, and all of a sudden it doesn't get as competitive. And I don't want to throw shade at any competitors who were there, but it is kind of clear that there was like a top 3 at least at Art of Motion, and then below that, it's not competitive anymore. No one is really, if there was going to be a podium, no one was really like able to really push for that spot. And so as you start to go even deeper and you try to fill 10 spots, you can run into the issue. Particularly, remember, you're going to get no's. Some people are not going, men and women are not going to be able to either make the dates or want to compete or whatever it is. And so you're going to start to get no's. And because there isn't a lot of women competing or in parkour altogether, it's just hard to just surely, like, you just have less people to pick from. How many dudes wanted to be in Art of Motion that like also like probably could have, like, you know, you could make a case for like that guy could podium, yeah. Right? It's a little bit easier to put a comment, and it's for me, it doesn't have anything to do with like it. I think what we saw from Art of Motion from the women was very entertaining. It's not that, it's just that outside of the top women, there's like a drop off in skill where it's not entertaining because it's not competitive. You need, in order to have entertainment, you need it to be competitive.
And the yeah, sorry to cut you off here, but sorry.
I'm digging myself a hole here, man.
You are. No, but yeah. It is hard to be competitive. So, but the reason that is because female participation in parkour is so much lower as a percentage of male participation, and we know this because of you and I attended Art of Retreat years ago, and Alice Popejoy's research looked at women's participation in jams. At major U.S. jams. I don't know if it's different in outside of the U.S. I think that was her demographic. It was only in the U.S. But she found that out of all of these different jams, on average, about 13% of participants were women. And so, and that's just for jams. And then that actually provoked me to look at our numbers for qualifying events. And first, I mean, so for some events it was even lower than 13%, but like just looking at our 2019 NAPC numbers, people who showed up for on-site qualifiers, it was about 13% of participants were women and the rest were all men and going into these. And it was to the point where we were taking the top 3 participants in each discipline, and for the style discipline for on-sites, there was only 3 women registered to compete. So we didn't even run the qualifier. We just accepted all 3 of them into the event. So so it's like it's such a tricky thing with like, because there are very talented women out there. There's very skilled, high-level, competitive women out there. The problem is there's not nearly as many of them as there are of men. And when we look at like these, and actually, so in 2019, so like I said, there was 13% of women showing up and competing. But in the actual competition, what we accepted in as qualified for being in the main event, it was about 40% of participants were women compared to 13% who would normally show up to a qualifier. So we actually artificially inflated the numbers by giving more spots. We actually offered 50% spots, but they only filled 40% because, again, some of them just didn't show up. Couldn't make it because of the dates, couldn't make it because the flights were too expensive, couldn't make it for various reasons. Maybe they're injured. This is a kind of like a behind the scenes that I think a lot of people don't consider when we're talking about female participation. And I think we should talk a little bit about prize money as well, because historically, and I'll put it on record, we were not paying equal prize money in SPL. This year that is changing. This year we will be doing equal prize money, and we think that's the step in the right direction, the direction we'd like to see. But we are not Redbull. We don't have a basically unlimited budget to just like offer equal prize money, where I think it should be a lot easier for them to do it. For us, we're basing it off of qualifying, like people participating in qualifying, like so the numbers participating in qualifiers, and the revenue that's driven from on-site qualifiers and other qualifiers is feeding into that. And so you look at we might have a skill division of 50 men competing and 10 women competing, and it's that's probably not the right like percentage, but let's just say, and it's just not quite how much of that revenue is being driven by the male athletes. We're going to be contributing a larger prize pool compared to the female athletes. Now, we're going to make that change this year. This year we are going to offer equal prize money because we believe that is the direction we want to be going in. But I want to be clear here that it's not as easy as you might think it is when you're just saying, we'll just make it equal. Because that means we actually have to like lower the men's prize pool to make the women's prize pool equal. So it's actually a difficult process and a hard decision to make, because it's not like the top male athletes are like, yeah, go ahead, lower my prize money, I don't care. Some of them might be okay with it.
It's the number one question.
It is the number one question.
From, we'll say top prospects. So I'm not gonna name names, but let's say we have a first place male from a previous year, and we're like, hey, can you make it this year? By the way, we don't got any money for your flight because, we're not Red Bull. we're just pulling funds from a couple of gyms and ticket sales and whatnot. So we can't pay for your flight. Oh, how much is prize money? That's what it always goes to. And thank God there's some athletes out there that have just like, been able to work with us and like really love the event and have been able to come out, and women, because I actually don't get that question that much from them. Oddly enough,
that is super interesting.
I don't get that question enough. If they've just been able to come out because they like the event and they get something else out of it, then that's awesome. We would love to have like a $50,000 prize prize pool and just go 25 on each, and everyone's happy and they walk away with a life-changing amount of money. But
if we
don't have that.
Here's the thing, like if we had the budget for it, we would have done this way sooner.
Yeah, it's like when you're only working, like so just to say some numbers here, say we have $10,000, and so if you divide that by six podiums, so 3 for men, 3 for women, we get down to math, less than 2,000 for per podium. And so you want to do first, second, and third prize, or you could give it all to first. And so these are decisions like, do we bump up first place, or do we do we dramatically drop the amount we gave last year? Because that's the other thing. We set a precedent one year where it's like, first, when we didn't have remember when we were talked about, we went back, we didn't have women's divisions for certain things. And so when we go back to that and we add in a women's division, and we have a men's division whose first place for each podium got like 1,500, right? We can't afford that anymore if we make the prizes equal. And so you said it's not easy. Some people, you depending on your, where your stance is, you might think that's actually really easy. Just lower it, and F them. F those money grubbing guys who will only come out for if their first place prize is of a certain amount. You could just say F them, but we have chose to not F them. We have chose to try not to F anybody, but this year, as you mentioned, we are going to be going with equal prize money on all podiums.
Yeah, I mean it took a while, but here we are.
Well, we skipped 2 years.
We did skip 2 years, so we got to make up for it somehow, right?
Yeah.
This is going to be the third year. This is going to be 2019 was our last year of the event.
Yeah, we'll skip 2021.
In 2020,
2021, yeah.
And now we're in 2022. So this is like 3 years since our last event, basically.
True.
That's
Dang.
wild to think about.
We're gonna have to over deliver or something.
Yeah. So the event is August 19th through the 21st, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is just a sprinkling of some of the promotion and information that we have to give about it.
There's going to be a lot more information coming out soon about how to qualify for the event.
In our defense too, not that we have loads of time. I just talked about the struggle of being Redbull and not having a person to go. Again, 3 people trying to make this happen.
Yeah.
If you'd like to join the team, let us know. Also,
if you're interested in helping us out with our live event, with anything else involved behind the scenes of Sport Parkour League, please drop us a line, leave us a comment, shoot us a DM.
Yeah.
We're always looking for people to help out. Do we want to?
I do. I just looked at the time of the recording here. Are you talking about the last thing?
Yeah.
So I do want to kind of go. Let's wind back to Art of Motion, because we did a really nice job of giving a little bit of criticism, a little bit of praise, and then pumping ourselves up here. So let's go back to Art of Motion. Some moments that we have not already talked about, or that you just want to revisit.
Well, let's kind of like wrap it up. Like, what are our maybe favorite moments from the first day, second day, and then third day potentially?
Okay. Can we do like one each, just so
sure?
So
we keep it short.
Well, also potential that we don't come up with the same ones, and I get to say words.
All right, you go first.
Okay, first day. I go first.
Yeah.
No, I didn't have one in my head. I'm not prepared for this podcast. You did that on purpose. All right.
I mean, all right, you first. I would say, wow. Okay. I'm struggling to come up with like a standout. Like obviously, like Verky and Ed were great. Maybe like Stefan Dollinger just across like the first 2 days even was just like a standout to me, because I haven't really seen much from him. I wasn't even following him on Instagram until like.
Okay. Paint us a little bit of a picture. Why was he? a standout.
Oh wow! Like, well,
If for someone that's not going to bother to go watch.
So his exploration challenge, he also did a side pre, but it looked like it was also over a roof gap, but it was a little bit more blind because he went over something, and then he added more onto it. So it was kind of like Ed's line or Ed's combo, but it was it was like a little bit longer and seemed also quite awesome. And in my opinion, I think it didn't crack the top 5, but it should have been in the top 5. Yeah, I mean, and his second day video was excellent as well. So you should go watch that one.
Yeah, I want to go back to actually Bob Reese's side flip.
Yeah.
It's a big side flip gap to a rounded bit. I think that they faked the clip and him saying he's going to slip, but essentially that's what was going through his head, what he said before doing it, but still sent it. Even though it was a slip, it's still relatively clean for like what what is entailed with that challenge. But that was a super sick one. And what did he place for that?
I don't know.
For doing side flip to that. I don't even know. I wonder does anyone know? Leave us a comment if you know what those, like, if a roof is like rounded like that. So I hate just saying like rounded roof. I'm sure that has a name.
It's a cupola.
It's like an Italian rounded rooftop.
All right, second day. What do you got?
Me first again. I want to go back to on day 2. You showed me for the first time today before we started recording, and it was is it Shay?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not because I got confused.
No, yeah,
like what day did Aiden drop out? But Shay Rudolph, his video is excellent. His day 2 video. What you can expect from him, like they're the twin parkour classic style, which sometimes I don't actually appreciate as much because they don't cover a lot of ground. Their style always seems to be like fixated on, I won't call it small parkour, but it's like just doing everything in tight spaces. There seems to be like a fixation on doing like really difficult moves and almost like what is the tightest space I can perform all of these like really difficult moves in.
He did his exploration challenge was just the lowest cast ever, which I know you didn't like, but
I don't know if I want to throw shit in there. I will say I don't like the idea of smallest move or like doing a move on the smallest thing possible as a thing you should do in a competition. It's like what is this, the competition for ants kind of thing where like Zoolander, y'all.
I mean, it's incredibly impressive. It's low, and it's on hard ground.
Yeah.
It's not like you did it on grass or anything. It was on hard ground.
Yeah, not trying to take away from the fact that it is like an incredible feat. It's just like such a bizarre.
It's a weird choice. I agree.
Choice to make in a. I don't think it's a. I think it's a thing that you do for training and maybe for like an Instagram clip. I don't think it's a thing that you do in a competition because it doesn't sell. I remember also like at one of the NEPC's Hanaho from Japan, like she did the same thing where it was like really funny too because she tried to sell it so she did like a cast back off of one structure and it was like this high, and then she went to like the next one and she like took her hands and went like to demonstrate that it was lower, and I was like, oh well, you're trying to sell it, so that's helpful, but yeah, don't try to win by doing something on the smallest thing, lowest structure possible. Weird competition strategy.
Yeah, agreed. Should I pick one?
What round? We're on round 2? Yeah.
Stefan Dollinger again. He's just so good. Like, he's so good.
Dollinger.
Comment below if you know that reference. Hot fire.
Dollinger.
Okay. I mean, yeah, he was great. But I mean, we already mentioned Sydney's video, which I thought was really well put together. And then the live event. Shoot, I wanted to say Shay again.
but I already covered him. So, we kind of just like glanced over Verkey's line there and like some talk about it, and I. Do you have?
It's not like it was bad.
No. Because so here's the thing. Like when you put it in an art of motion, you put it against other things, and you talk about what Ellis did, and what Shay did, and what Ed did, and I'm kind of like, it's kind of funny because when I think talking about that way, so like Ellis, Shay, Ed, Verkey, it goes from like really highly difficult like singular movements down to like maybe not as difficult, but like a freaking plyometric combo.
Yeah.
Where just, because I keep hearing these words about like no steps wasted, and I'm like, I'm a stickler for steps wasted, and I can see a lot of wasted steps in the other ones of moves that don't really need to be in there, that are kind of just like filling space. But this is like move, ping, down, like, just getting down really quick, like very like slope style parkour. It does it for me. It does it for me. Yeah.
I wish the one thing about Verkey's line is I wish I had the side angle, because I want to see the Kong Pre, because Giles was saying that it's actually like a fat Kong Pre that he did, and he did it really easily out of like 2 steps.
So is like, there another angle out there that we?
I don't know. Maybe somebody has it, but man, that full though. I mean, I'm.
I actually. So here's the funny thing. Has he done that in comp before?
I don't think so. He usually he does full in usually.
Full in, back out. Okay.
And in this case, he did full in, full out.
I think that went like
one
the funny thing about this, just real quick, is that kind of went like. Whoosh. Yeah. Because when I saw the clip the first time, because I see this kid doing full in, back out all the time, right? And I am fully aware that they're 2 different moves, and that it is much harder to do the second one.
Fully aware.
I'm fully aware of that. However,
are you fully aware?
However, when I'm watching it like this.
Yeah, sometimes they can look
and
the
I'm
same.
going by, it looks totally the same, and it kind of just, I didn't quite get the hype, and I also think maybe 1 or 2 of the judges didn't notice either.
Maybe.
But I could just be,
I don't know,
doing some speculating.
One thing I do want to say about the full though is a lot of people, I've seen actually multiple people say this on Instagram, because, and they're probably not watching this, but if they are, it actually was not on concrete. It wasn't on hard ground. It was hard ground. Yes, it was on like a built
wood platform,
wood stage, and that, I mean, he still did full, and I'm not taking anything away from it, but it's not exactly the same as on concrete. It gives a little bit more, and it's a little bit nicer to land on. So I do want to put that out there. However, he did full, so.
Whole other topic. Do competitions belong on concrete, or is wood okay? Let us know.
That's
in the comments.
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah.
I think we're fully like in agreement of no mats, but does it need to be on the most unforgiving surface possible to really be like a great parkour competition? I
don't think I said this.
Or can we have some built stuff in there?
I don't think I said this in an STS, but Kings of the Concrete, right? They were, it's all Kings of the Concrete, and we were like, is it even going to be on concrete? And it was on concrete. However, they did have some built stages and stuff, but that's fair enough. It was on concrete. But the thing I did find funny about it was a lot of the submissions were like on grass spots and stuff, right? Like, but that's the thing, is like so much of parkour is actually not on concrete. And we talk about like no mats and stuff all the time, but sand, dirt, grass,
piling up rocks on the other side of the
wood
manpower
chips, rocks, like all of these things are acceptable as long as it's not a mat. But and it's the thing. It's the one thing sometimes, like in the gym, I get like mad at kids if they're like pulling over mats for everything. It's like, come on, like you don't need a mat for that. And it's like, then I have to catch myself and be like, well, if this was outside, they would be doing it on grass, and if it was on grass, then they would probably feel way more confident going for it than on our hard floors. So anyway, okay, I think we should wrap that up.
Yeah, that was a nice piece of almost an hour and a half.
That's not terrible. Yeah. It's 90 minutes of good listening.
Yeah, in the same frame. Yeah. We'll get another camera and a switcher eventually, but for now, welcome to YouTube.
All right, thanks so much for tuning in. If you made it to the end, that's great. If you didn't make it to the end, you're probably not hearing this right now, so that's okay. Leave us a comment below. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, do all the things that you need to do to hear more from us two old farts talking about things that we can't do in parkour. We'll catch you in the next one.